I don't know.
Wait, who's introducing this one?
Well, Alexis chose this movie.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
chose it. So
Even though you hosted the last episode, I'm kind of sad.
Lex is taking over.
I'm just taking over this.
Fuck you,
weekend.
Alexis. Okay.
Hey man, I'm only choosing good ones.
Next week,
okay?
we'll
This
talk
one
about
was
that.
interesting. I wanted.
This one was different.
I wouldn't say good.
Look,
but it was
okay.
interesting.
Look. We've only been doing mainstream movies, okay, that are in theaters. This is at least something that I've kind of wanted to do, which is
That's
a
not
little
true.
obscure.
We also did fucking Swiss Army Man. That one was like.
But we never posted
Sus.
it. Well, anyways, this is Four Guys, One Film, and today we watched David Lynch's Lost Highway.
What an interesting movie.
What a movie.
Yeah.
It was something for sure.
The gist of it is, well, if you don't know, David Lynch has made some very strange films. Eraserhead, Mulholland Drive, bunch of other stuff that's really, really
You
good.
said Elephant Man too, right?
Yeah, I said Elephant Man. And so this one, Lost Highway, it's weird because it's about this guy who starts getting videotapes, like VHS tapes, to his home, which is just recordings of him.
Just being a weirdo.
And then you kind of see a little bit of a relationship with his wife, and then he straight up murders her, like dismembers her. And then he's convicted for it. He's on death
It's
row.
implied because that's what we see through the VHS.
Right.
Well, that's one thing I didn't understand.
Wait,
go ahead,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
done. I'm done.
All right. I want to jump right. I want to jump right into it. Let's go.
All right, kills his wife. Thank you, Isaac. Kills his wife. He's in prison. He this strange thing happens. He becomes another person in a way, right? We don't know as we're watching.
Yeah.
And this guy lives his life and is with his dead wife. And then we go through all this, and then it turns out it's not him, but it is him. That's Lost Highway. It's hard to explain. Let's just get into it.
I was definitely lost. There was a lot of highway scenes, so spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, the beginning of the movie is just
The highway.
The highway.
The end.
And the end.
And
The beginning is the end, or is the
But
end the beginning?
you know what's crazy? Had a great
It's a
soundtrack.
soundtrack.
Incredible soundtrack. Nine Inch Nails, Rammstein,
Oh yeah, they had
Smashing
Marilyn
Pumpkins,
Manson. Yeah,
Marilyn
a little bit of
Manson.
everything. I was like
bro.
surprised. I was like
Lot of
90s,
nudity.
peak 90s
Yeah.
fucking rock. I love
The only thing
that.
that they missed was like Nirvana, and it would have been like there. It'd been there.
Yeah.
Bowie
Nah,
for
Nirvana
the
didn't
intro
fit the
song.
vibe for this. Maybe
It did. It was kind of grungy as
maybe rape me.
97.
Maybe if it was the Blow Me. Wait, the Blow Me, the Blue album.
It's okay.
It
Like
was-
you're a little
we got
tipsy
it.
already.
It's because of
Jeez, what am
the
I saying?
pornography in this film.
There was a
But-
lot of pornography, a lot of nudity.
Little pornography.
Patricia Arquette, she's undeniably a babe.
Wasn't expecting that. Like the amount of nudity. It was kind of like
No.
crazy.
I
But-
saw this movie years ago, and I don't remember a thing. But I thought it was incredible. Like just
I just wish. I think it was overly done, the nudity though. Like as
It was
much.
a lot.
There
It
was
was
a
a lot.
yeah.
I don't think it was like necessary to have it like just her like
I don't
having
think
sex
it
in the
played
background.
that
you know?
much of a
Well, you know,
significance
that's
in
the
film.
thing, though. Is I mean, I kind of want to break a little bit of the fourth wall here and just be honest
Break
with
it.
the viewers.
Go.
Say
Go.
this, look, we're four intelligent guys here, right?
Civilized,
Debatable.
guys. Innocent
most,
men.
On most days.
We are innocent men.
On most days.
Yes.
But it took some extra looking up and understanding, like, what David Lynch's genius was trying to tell us here. And
Yeah,
you
no,
know
I was
what?
a
We're not
little
gonna be
lost.
we're not going to be like the other podcasts who pretend like, this is my brilliant theory that I came up with.
We theorize.
I came up with
No,
this.
none of us knew what.
No, we wanted to check to see if we could fill in some gaps of understanding, which is actually good. You know, it's that's how you know when a movie is good, when it actually leaves you wanting to know more about it.
I don't think it just wanted us. The problem with this movie is I don't think it wanted us to figure out what was actually going on. And
No.
Somebody figured it out.
I don't think unless we ask the director and he says like, "Hey man, this is exactly what I try to go with the movie," then I don't know what could possibly be the explanation for a lot of this stuff because I think it was like 45 minutes too long. I think
It
there
was
was
2 hours 15 minutes.
It's,
You wanted a rom com.
You wanted it to be like an hour and 15?
I want it to be like an hour and 30.
You wanted a rom com.
Hour 45.
Hour 45. Well, I think the interesting thing about David Lynch is that he knows how to meld dream like states and like reality together where it's at a point where like we can't discern which is which.
I don't.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think that's a good point though. Like you can't discern what the movie's trying to tell you. Then how, as a moviegoer, are you going to want to be excited to see another movie?
Because it's a puzzle.
I don't know.
I agree with Isaac to an extent. I feel like it takes away from the enjoyment just because I'm like, I want to be confused enough, but also feel like it's resolved at the end. And in this one, it's like after we did a little digging and, heard other people's opinions and, what their theories were, then I was like, you know what? I can see that. And I did like that. But if I have to do that, then it's like, okay, there's some things that are missing there that he could have potentially, depicted in a certain way where it's like, okay. Then at the end,
Well,
I
if
would
he didn't
feel
have
like,
4 idiots watching his movie, he probably wouldn't have had that problem.
no, but I mean, like,
Well-
there's certain films like Shutter Island, right, where it's like you're confused and it's a little, it puzzles you and
See,
it really
I,
makes
I
you.
told you you'd like Shutter Island better than this.
I mean, it makes you ponder, but at the end, I'm like, I kind of understand what actually happened at the end. Rather than this, I was like confused the entire fucking time, and then at the end, I kind of felt like, all right, there's something there, but not necessarily like.
Well, okay, here's the thing. Like I said, he likes to incorporate this dream-like state in his films.
Mhm.
And so let me ask you this. When you guys have a dream, does it always make sense?
I think to me it does. I like, even though like I may not know what it means, but like at the end of the day, like I know it's a dream and I know like.
But you,
It's
you,
me.
you can't say that you've never had a dream where you're like, oh, what the fuck was that?
Nah, I'm gonna be real honest. I don't dream like that crazy,
Bro,
man.
last night I had dreams.
I had
like
some
that.
weird ass fucking dreams.
And I have no. I'm not gonna say like I don't have weird dreams, but at the same time, I don't know where that didn't come from.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Have
I
you
know,
ever had a nightmare that you kind of didn't understand?
yeah, but I think it was just like more a mess of my insecurities and fears. So like that's
what it
what
was? It's because you went on YouTube and looked it up.
I'm a 26-year-old man. Last night I had a dream that I was in high school and I got ditched somewhere and people were laughing at me. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Hey man, that's
Nick,
what-
it means you got some personal shit you gotta work
you know what
out,
that sounds
bud.
like. You're just
Hey,
scared
I'll
to be
see you
alone.
after therapy.
gang, dude. I know a good
I
therapist.
mean, yeah, but that's the thing though. Dreams don't always have to make sense. This is a movie. It's like something that he clearly wants to portray. So it's like make it make sense at least.
yeah, that's
no,
true.
but that's the thing. I think he's trying to show this as a dream-like. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily need to make sense, but he's giving you context clues to go towards what
Okay.
it may or may
I
not
get
be.
that. So like, let's reference portions that I felt were confusing.
Okay,
right?
let's go for it.
One. Why did he actually murder his wife? I feel like that wasn't explained, enough. And then two, also the fact that he was Pete. I felt like if he would have distinct that a little bit better, where it was obvious like, oh, this is who he wants to be, rather than just like, oh, this is a completely different, person
Yeah,
going
because
on.
at that point the movie changed, right? Like the tone
Yeah.
changed everything.
And I
Yeah.
think it would have been a different. I think he would have made that clear if it was a dream state. If the original protagonist Fred stayed being Fred, I think in our dreams we never. At least I haven't had a dream where I'm somebody else pretending to be me. You know.
Well, I mean, I've had dreams where I live a totally different life. And,
Yeah,
and I know I'm me, but I'm not really me.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you're not. But you're not saying you're like, oh, I look physically different in your.
Well, that's not even something I think about.
Well, maybe I missed it, but was there certain things that made it seem like, oh, like this is his dream life? Like I feel like that
before
was
we
the
even
case.
get into that, one of the things that I think is important to understand though is like we're talking about a David Lynch movie and other movies like Tenet or other movies like Inception, where the big thing to understand and to really like make sure people grasp is that some of these movies are actually not meant to be understood the first watch. They're purposely meant to be watched 3-4 times. Yes, there is the Shutter Islands where it's trippy, obscure, misunderstood until the end, and it's perfectly wrapped up. Where the average moviegoer will immediately see through everything that was supposed to be seen, and you're not going to miss any details, right?
Yeah.
This one, I feel like, is one of the things where, like, had we not looked into those details of, like, what did I miss? Because I was just reading some still, even up until right when we started. And there's a couple, like we talked about some Freudian things that they were trying to say with like the ego, the superego, and the id, and the different characters. Where I'm like, shit, that I would have never.
Yeah, that's
gotten,
like
'cause
beyond. That's
you'd have
beyond
to
what
be
I know.
like in
But-
psychology. to
Yeah, but
understand that.
you were reading that off a wiki, so that's like again that's somebody else's still interpretation, and I feel like as a director, your interpretation of the movie should come out very clearly.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to have a psychology degree to understand
Yeah.
some of this stuff. I respect that opinion.
And so like
I
and honestly, like yeah, it was a good movie, but I'm never gonna watch this movie again.
I
Like
agree with Isaac on this one.
Like,
I
yeah.
do feel like what you were saying is like, hey, sometimes you have to watch it a few times over to actually get the whole gist of it. But I'm like, this movie was like the pace and everything was so slow. Like I don't even know if I would want to rewatch it just to understand the full thing.
You
Like,
just get porn, bro.
'Cause that's-
Personally, I really like the film's like vibe, like the atmosphere, because in the beginning it just kind of like
No,
it's weird, it's slow, it's dark.
That was beautiful and everything, but like again, it just like when I can't follow with what the director's trying to clearly portray or like the theme, I feel like that's a very off-putting because I could like all the, like the lighting was great, the like you said earlier, the back the music was great. The actors did a good job except for Fred. That guy was weird.
I liked him a lot.
Wait, which
Yeah.
one was Fred?
The main guy.
The main guy.
Oh yeah, no, he was a fucking creep.
Okay, except for the jazz music. As a jazz liker,
Oh my god, that was the worst.
That was the
jazz
worst.
He's not a
player
good
in my fucking life.
Yeah.
sax player.
I think he probably actually played for the film because it was that terrible. I was like,
La La
yo.
Land had some good jazz.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
But it just wasn't like something that I can get behind and watch like another 2 hours. How was it? 2:15?
2 hours 15.
2 hours 15 minutes. I can't sit there and watch this movie again and try to really like remember every scene and try to
Yeah.
figure it out.
Well, I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I'm a big fan of David Lynch. I saw this movie maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I wasn't like a huge fan. I was kind of like that was interesting.
Yeah.
But rewatching it, now, I'm enjoying it a lot more, and I'm like really picking up on like the things that he was setting up. In retrospect, right?
You want to
And this is
enlighten
my
us on
second-
some of those things?
Yeah. So like, I mean, just based on like the shit that we looked up, looking at this film as like a Mobius strip, where the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning.
Yeah.
It's very confusing, but it's also really interesting as like a viewer, as an audience member, because then you start picking up like, oh shit, Dick Laurent is dead. He said that at the end. That's what he heard in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of what started him to like kind of like be like, yo, like what's going on over here,
Yeah.
and then picking up on the character's motivations at the end, like him just wanting to have his wife, but then her telling him that like you'll never have me, which kind of goes back to the beginning when he's having sex with her and he can't
He can't
please
perform.
her.
Yeah.
That's
She's-
the big thing. That,
And that's the major thing that really like pushed him to, I guess, murdering his wife, which is absolutely ridiculous.
That's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's like, yo, you're gonna murder your wife because you can't please her. That's.
But like you think
that'd
about
be
it.
upsetting, but not murder worth.
Yeah, because this guy's like having like
maybe divorce. Like
yeah, it's like, hey man, you got options. You can,
But this man has
leave.
issues, right? Like he's not
mentally stable.
he's not mentally stable. He's not sure of himself as a man, and he has this complete psychotic break where, like in the movie, it's pretty like it's kind of gruesome. Like you see an image of him like bloodied, and
he
naked.
tore her up.
Like
Yeah.
he tore her up. Like
Yeah.
he totally dismembered her,
Dismembered her.
and then
Right.
all of a sudden he's getting punched by the cop. Like what happened? Like
Yeah.
what caused him
Well,
to?
I think after watching the movie, I think like the first 30 minutes, like up to the point where you see like him getting punched to the cop, that was like what
Real
actually
life.
what actually happened.
Yeah, I think that's real too.
and then him, like we watched the explain video when he got into the prison cell. That was where his imagination, his own
He started
psychotic.
running
Yeah,
wild.
once
Yeah.
the blue light started flashing, that was no longer real life.
Or do you think that was because he was sentenced to the electric chair? Because that's what. Do you think that was just him in the electric chair in that
No,
like,
no, they
at the
explained it.
very
They
end.
explained it at the end. When the cop, when he was being chased in the car chase,
And he was
then there's flashing
celebrating.
lights and he's like convulsing. Like,
Well,
all
I
that.
know,
convulsing,
but
yeah.
what I'm saying, how at the beginning there was a prison cell. And we see the flashing lights. Do you guys think that's maybe the beginning of the electric chair, and then like in those couple of seconds he played that all out in his head?
Oh,
Light
like in those
flashing behind
moments?
him.
Yeah.
That's a good point. But one thing that kind of makes me doubt that whole thing is that Lynch directs a scene where the guards are like, hey, like this isn't what's his name?
The
Fred.
Pete,
This is like some other dude.
Yeah.
Like, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
spooky. Like what's going on over here?
So that's what threw me off too. That's why I was like, hey, so it's not the right person?
Yeah, because we're not looking at his perspective at that point. We're looking at an outside perspective.
Yeah.
So like what's really going on? And that's what I like. It's like that like I just don't know.
Yeah.
What's real or not. And it really is up to us to decide to believe whether it's him, going through this like life death process, or if you want to take this movie at face value and like he turned into, Pete,
Yeah.
whatever,
Remember, so the viewers don't have to do the digging that we had to do. The idea is that Pete, the mystery man, and Mr. Eddie are different characters of what he believes, and this is Fred, to be kind of either his ideals, his morals, and like this whole idea of like the super ego and the id. I don't think we need to talk about that because nobody needs a fucking psychology degree overnight. But in reality, more than anything, is the mystery man is what he feels like at the end of the day. Where he needs to be, what he needs to do. It's a means to achieve the goals that he has, all fueled by his jealousy, all fueled by his feelings of like, I deserve a better life, especially when it comes to his impotency.
That's his dream life. Of
That's,
mechanic.
No, that's not his dream life. That's
this kid
his,
who's like screwing all these women.
That's his means to an end. Like, sorry, that's Pete we're talking about right there. But I'm talking about the mystery man or whatever. That's his means to an end. The mystery man is meant to fuel him. And one of the things that I had read was that the reason the mystery man uses the camcorder is because that shows him what reality is. Reality is,
and he wanted that to be the reality.
Well, reality is the scene that it shows his, like when he gets those videotapes, right? He has a beautiful house, and then he has a beautiful house, and he's inside, and he's laying in bed with an amazingly beautiful, gorgeous woman, and they're not even touching each other, because at the end of the day, he is sexually incapable of pleasing and satisfying her, and that's eating him inside.
I think I have another theory, and I kind of want to
hear it.
Put a pin on that, George.
Put a pin on it. I have another theory. Because at the end where they find the weird guy with the pencil mustache, I don't know if they ever say his name. Andy's character. They find a picture of his wife with Mr. Eddie. Now these guys had a lot of money, and there was a lot of like pornography film where she was having sexual stuff. Now, do you guys think the reason maybe Fred is like kind of like weirded out, and I think he does kill Eddie and Andy in real life, and that's what kind of starts his
descent,
because I think he was like, dude, maybe he was like maybe embarrassed that his wife was a fucking porn star, because they kind of implied that.
Yeah, that's true. Because here's one thing: at the end of the movie, or in the middle of the movie, they show a picture with Andy, Mr. Eddie, and Renee and Alice, which are played by Patricia Arquette. But then later at the end of the movie, you see that Alice is never in the picture.
Alice doesn't exist.
Even though
it was his ideal wife.
Well, I think
George wants to say something.
No, I have a different theory on that. I agree that the whole reason that he probably killed those people in his false reality was because he was jealous or whatever. But
I think he killed them in real life.
I don't think he did
because I think that's what set the cops on his trail. And remember when they he
said that there's no such thing as bad coincidence.
There's bad coincidence, and also the detective said there's the prints of not Fred, but his counterpart Andy all over the place.
I thought you said Pete.
You're talking about. You're saying there's Pete's.
No,
prints
he said Pete's prints.
Yeah, Pete's prints are all over the place, and I think that's just him in his own mind trying to blame those murders on somebody else instead of taking him responsibility.
Interesting.
Because at the end of the day, he had this whole illusion. And he tried to like blame somebody else for doing these things
because he can't imagine himself doing it. Right?
Yeah,
I don't think that the only thing that I don't get of that.
And you remember
the detectives. Sorry, I want to say this though, because the detectives are literally watching Pete, who we know isn't supposed to be real, right?
Yeah.
Have sex with, in this case, Alice, and saying, "Wow, this guy like is fucking drowning in pussy" or something like that.
He was screwing Sheila at that point, actually.
But even then, like that's my point, right? Is that these guys would probably see a Sheila who is very similar to Renee, who is unsexually or unsatisfied sexually, right? She is not having a good time. But Pete, that was the whole point of Pete. Pete was the person he wanted to be, not because Pete was a mechanic, but because Pete was a mechanic with a hot girlfriend who was still able to pull an even hotter mistress. That's what he wanted. He's like, I'm a fucking sax player who's making a shit ton of money in LA. I'm like the definition of raw sex appeal, according to his own mind. But why am I unable to have sex and actually please these women? Like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, I also think one theory that I was thinking about, that I just kind of like think.
I kind of want to
let George finish.
I kind of want to
George finish.
You go, George.
No, well, I'm not disagreeing with your theory. Yeah. Well, I think to just add on to it, you know how he said that anything that was being recorded or camcorded, that's the reality, and then he wants to, remember things on his own. I think that's one of the reasons why it's such a big thing that she's a porn actress, because it's like that's what he wishes was the reality, and that's what he's looking back at, like, his ideal situation where she's being physically pleased and like actually satisfied on video, because it's like I wish that was what is the case.
That's
So I mean,
interesting.
it might be a bit of a reach, but I mean, like I feel like that's why maybe it plays such a big role in the entire movie because it's
And-
like this is what I would want. Ideally.
And to add to that, like I think we can even concur that she was a porn artist, was because there was a scene where she had sex with Mr. Eddie in front of a bunch of dudes, and that was he probably switched when she probably revealed that information to him. He probably converted that situation to see like, oh, she was forced into it. She was because unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff when it comes to like a lot of them get tricked into doing it. They go for the modeling gig, and one thing leads to another, and some of these girls like you see like they come out and say like Mia Khalifa, she came out and was like, dude, I got tricked into doing this. This was not
I was
something-"
manipulated.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that's kind of what he took it as, but I think his wife was unfortunately one of the girls that openly did it, and then he was the one that like dealing with the consequences of that emotion.
You can kind of think about this too in a way where this guy wants an ideal woman, which is she loves me and she's always satisfied by me.
Yeah.
But clearly that's not the case because in the beginning, right? We all noticed like the relationship was weird.
It was
Yeah.
strained. It was
And the
very
way
weird.
that
strained,
she
there was
talked
a
to
distance.
Alex, or what was his name, right?
Andy,
Andy, I'm sorry. The way she talked to Andy and the way that she
while he's
danced with
playing
Andy,
jazz, right?
he was playing jazz, and then also in the party.
Oh, at the party,
At
that's
the
right.
party,
Oh,
she's
yeah,
like,
she
"Can
was-
you go get me
no,
a
wait,
drink? Can you go get me a drink?"
I literally thought that that her and Andy were dating first because it's like they just seemed like they were flirty and like she kissed him on the cheek and like whatever. And she,
That
like,
was
sending him off.
probably like the porn star she actually did the video with because they had a picture with.
That's right.
I'm assuming the other guy, Mr. Eddie, because he was the guy with the money. He was the guy with the bodyguards, and remember that like we're gonna rob this guy because he has the money,
Yeah.
And so I think maybe the other guy was like the porn artist, and like that actually did the video with her. And even Dick Laurent sounds like a dude that would produce porn.
I know, right? That is a porn star name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the character Fred, he's very egocentric.
Oh, no, for sure.
Like all this is just to satisfy himself as a man because, I mean, I'm looking at
Feels
this.
like he's not confident.
Yeah, like I'm looking at this through the lens of modern day, which is, I don't want to see women portrayed as just candy, right? Like
Mhm.
one dimensional.
But unfortunately, that's kind of what it was played out in this movie.
Yeah.
It felt really.
But I don't think it was done in a way where it's actually, it kind of was gratuitous because she
Yeah.
did get naked a lot.
yeah, like for
I mean, yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that I hate about directors. Like, it's way too much. Like,
Yeah.
it
and I
does-
think in this case, the pornography of it all also was meant to add to the idea, like again in his fantasy life, right, where he is a Pete, he has found a way to make a woman who, like Alice, right, like dissecting Alice, she is a beautiful woman, right? She is with somebody powerful in Mr. Eddie, and then on top of that, she is sexually experienced because she's a porn star. What that means is that Pete is a normal guy, but he's still able to pull a woman and bring her to attract
Yeah.
to attract her.
That's the ultimate fantasy, right?
Exactly. He's like, wow, I can make an amazingly beautiful woman who's with a powerful guy, leave him for me because I'm so
Mm-hmm.
hot or so sexually appealing in some way. And even though she's got all the experience in the world, I'm still going to be better than all the experience she's ever had.
and in
and
real
then-
life, unfortunately, that wasn't
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
case.
And the other thing, Pete's character is just a regular guy. Like he
Exactly.
has, I don't want to say that a mechanic is just a regular job, but it's not like you're not making like millions or
Yeah.
billions.
You're
out
still
of
living
it.
at home.
It's like it's,
Yeah.
it's a trade, right? It's
Yeah.
a trade. You're just a regular dude.
You make good money,
Hey, you
but
just hating on mechanics, Alexis? The fuck, bud?
I mean, hey, they
Hey,
screwed me over. Okay, they screwed me
well,
over.
maybe you should learn more about cars, bud.
Maybe I will. All right, maybe
All
I will.
right, good.
But
You know,
yeah,
Isaac's like up
this
there,
movie,
right?
man.
I basically know how to fix a car.
But what we need, in my opinion, I think, like I said, what we want to add to the
Good
viewer
to know.
more than anything is that we clearly all have different opinions, which is actually, like, in my opinion, it's adding to the score of this movie, right? Like the idea that I agree with you, Isaac. Like, I don't know if I'm going to watch this movie like tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? Definitely not going to happen.
Maybe
but,
in 3 years, like me.
But honestly, maybe 3 years ago, maybe a year from now, you're like, you know what? This was an obscure movie. I want to see if my opinion of it changes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and what other people have posted about this movie and what they've talked about and said that their interpretations or take as to every little detail that we've missed potentially, how that it changes and what the rewatchability will mean for our interpretation. That's what's important is seeing that if it's not a movie like Shutter Island where it's going to perfectly wrap everything up by the end of the film, can you at least see things differently if you're going to watch it again? Like, will it give you, or are you going to see the exact same film again? And I think this gives that opportunity at least. where maybe you'll bring different obviously
Perspective.
perspective, but obviously what I was going to say was having a new knowledge before even going in, knowing how the movie ends, knowing the things that happen, the plot line throughout. What details are we going to pick up on? Like, Alexis talked about knowing the fact that at the beginning, whose voice it is saying, Dick Laurent is dead. That adds to it, kind of to his mania and trying to figure out and dissect what of the early scenes is real and what's not, and kind of getting deeper and deeper into that rabbit hole.
Now, I think before we continue talking about this movie, what would you guys rate it? Because I want to talk about
Okay.
favorite scene, worst scene, and
I kind of want to go into strangest thing.
okay, that too.
Let's get into that.
We can talk
Yeah.
about that, but before I think we deserve to give our audience a
Okay.
score.
I'm curious about you. Let's
I
start
think
with you.
I give it a 7.5.
What?
That's
the
pretty
fuck?
good.
What the
That's
hell?
pretty good.
That's high for you.
For an obscure movie, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I like the movie. I think it had some flaws.
I think we're gonna hate it, bud.
No, I like the movie. I think
God, sorry. It's just
Yeah.
the,
Guys, someone's getting
there's
murdered
something
outside.
happening now.
We're just.
It's just
Hey,
like in the
hey,
beginning of the
wait,
movie.
It's because Dick Laurent is dead.
Dick Laurent is dead.
That's what.
I honestly think we should
And
keep
then the
that
police
in the
just said-
podcast.
Yeah, it kind of adds to it.
It kind of has a little flavor,
But sorry. Go ahead. 7.5.
I give it a 7.5. I really like a lot of stuff that the director was trying to do. Again, I don't have a. I think it does have some flaws, and I think big ones at that. Like if you're just like a normal dude, and you just like, oh, this is on HBO, let me watch it real quick. I don't think they would appreciate the pacing. I think too much nudity, honestly, for what it really brings to the table.
Yeah, different eras.
Yeah, it was in
1997. Yeah.
a year after we were born.
The year I was born.
Yeah,
You old
gang,
ass fucks.
gang. But
It's only a few months later.
Yeah, relax, bro.
I think
96 is the year.
Well, you're
Yeah.
the oldest one here, George.
Hey, fuck you guys.
and I think also another issue was I think a normal person isn't gonna see this movie again. Like they're not gonna sit down like a 2.5 hour.
Yeah, only a weird person would see this twice.
Yeah.
Alexis has probably seen it way more than one time. Like,
I've
what
only
the
seen-
second one?
This is my
counts.
second time. This is my second time.
I think the actors did a good job. I'm just saying that, and I think the score itself. The reason I give it such a bad score,
It's not bad.
for me, I think it could have been an easy 9 if they could have cleaned up some of the stuff.
I'm honestly really surprised you gave it the 7.5. To be honest, I didn't think you were gonna like
No,
it.
I don't-
Yeah,
I
it's
don't-
a
About
bit
to
lower.
rip into this shit. What do you got, George?
I know.
What do you got, George?
Shit, motherfuckers. I wasn't a huge fan. I don't know. I feel like I mentioned before, it didn't have the resolution, or at the end, it just the climax and everything wasn't what I wanted it to be.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not a straightforward film at all.
Yeah, but there's all right. Let me
And
give
I
you an
like that.
example.
Like I really like that because again, we're having a discussion. We can have a
Yeah.
discussion about it, and I really appreciate having discussion.
It's not
No,
easy to digest.
That's what I did enjoy about it. Like that there was like a lot of like, what's gonna happen, blah, blah, blah. But also just in general, I don't know if I liked it as much as you guys did. I'll give you an example of one that I feel like is similar to that, but I really enjoyed, like Memento. That one is not straightforward.
Memento.
Yeah, whatever.
Come on, get the name right. Get the name right.
It's not straightforward whatsoever.
Man,
But
you just love Christopher Nolan.
yeah,
I mean, who
come
doesn't
on.
though?
Come
Who
on, bro.
doesn't? I get it.
Batman?
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like at the end you realize, holy shit, this is what's been going on the entire time. But the entire film, I was so confused and like, what is actually happening? And then, but at the end, I'm like, oh, so he chose to like not actually want to remember what's going on because it's like that was his drive.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Oh shit! Sorry,
What,
sorry.
that's the funny thing because imagine in 1997, you pay your whatever $8 to see this movie.
Shit,
Oh, it's probably
what a
way
fucking
cheaper.
time.
$8
Yeah.
is my rent.
You got no YouTube. You got no like online discussions about this. You just
Yeah.
come out of it and you're just like, what the fuck did I just see? Right?
You might think it's trash. You're just like,
yeah, you're just like, this is shit,
If you think
right?
about it though, yeah, you absolutely bring a great point. In 1997, this is like a 10. Like you're like, oh my god, like how do I interpret
Yeah,
this?
like I've never seen anything
Yeah.
like this, but I don't know who to talk to.
But
right?
Yeah.
but again, I think it still has a special audience that would consider this a 10.
Right.
I don't think, again, like you said, you paid your $8 and you're like, oh shit, I kind of like some of these actors. I'm gonna go watch it because it's the only thing that's going on in this weekend. And I think at the same time, you could easily say, I'm like, make a case. This was like the worst movie I spent $8 in 2 hours.
You
I
know
feel
what?
like that's the majority, and then the minority is
I'm
like
gonna,
the ones
I'm gonna
like
say
I
something,
like
and
the
I want to be
differences.
honest about this. Here's
Lay it
the
out.
truth: is that the people, this is like the fucked up truth, and I'm not saying this is how we feel, but I'm saying this is what everybody in 1997 is probably feeling: is that the people who weren't there to watch a David Lynch film in the sense of something trippy, something crazy, something obscure, right? were there at least and happy because of the pornography in the film. We're out here. We're honestly, us four are out here looking at it.
All right, so it's a
too
10
much.
for Nick, apparently.
No, I'm
Just-
not
just
saying
like-
that.
Look, Patricia Arquette is incredibly beautiful.
That's the honest truth. Is every kid who snuck into the movie theater back there to watch it was not complaining, right? And all the people
Who
out
let
there.
kids in to watch this movie?
Hey, I didn't say nobody let a kid. I said who snuck into the theater.
All the 15-year-olds that saw it was rated R for
Yeah,
nudity.
bro. This was a sexual experience for them. But
See, but that's the thing. You would have to find out if it was actually going to show nudity. We
hey,
didn't.
yo, within the first weekend, that shit would have been on the schoolyards. Let's
It's
be
like
honest.
it's like 50 Shades
I
of
don't
Grey
know.
all over again.
But what
Oh
I'm
my
saying
God.
is
They
that
found
us
cucumbers
four,
used on
like, let's be
theater
honest, is
floors.
our access nowadays, right, to something like pornography makes it that, like, I don't want it in my films. Like, I don't crave it. I know, like, here to 2023, right?
Ooh.
Like, I see the first scene and I'm like, cool, you know, like some sex, whatever. Like, I can appreciate that in, like, a noir film.
Yeah.
Right? And then you see the next scene and the next scene and the next scene. You're like,
Well,
yeah, it's a little like.
I feel like I'm going to kill your that vibe because right now I looked up box office. This movie had a $15 million budget, only made 3.8 at the box.
So it did fucking trash.
It did trash.
Holy
So
shit.
yeah.
That did fucking...
That's not that bad. Though.
Terrible.
I mean,
in
making
1997,
well, making
and-
4 mil
and-
when you only put in 15. That's not like the heat, like the
Yeah, but
Like
biggest
it
box
made
office.
or like
it only made
so
three-
it lost $9
That's-
million.
yeah,
like 10, 11, yeah,
$11 million. And
Alexis,
this,
That's- that's not bad.
this is
that's
1990
horrendous.
This is 1997, player.
Well, look, okay,
That's a
but
negative.
here's the issue with your guys' perspective is that a movie needs to make money in order to be good.
No. I'm just trying to tell that because Nick was saying like, oh,
No.
like the kids that like we're
Right.
probably
No,
gonna
no.
go see it.
My
Yeah.
perspective wasn't that everybody's gonna watch this film. My
No.
perspective is that you're saying that back in the day. I mean, let's be honest. Like you watch, especially if we get into older generations than ours, right? Like a lot of people recount like how it was being a young person looking for pornography, right? Like, and it sounds weird to say this, but like the honest truth was like, I know the podcasts that I listen to or like the media that I listen to that have like older comedians.
They were
older
feral for that
entertainers,
shit.
They talk about like literally they're like, oh
They
yeah,
had
we used to hide
magazines.
like dirty magazines in the
Yeah.
woods and shit
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
and,
I
like
remember
crazy
hearing
shit
about
like
that.
that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have to deal with that. Like literally, like I think about my younger brother, for example, growing up nowadays, and I know the honest truth that he has way too much access in his iPhone 13 to anything and everything that he wants to see.
Damn, I'm calling him out.
Like I know that. Like I'm not saying that he does that. You know, he's a saint. I'm sure, but I know I wasn't. So you know,
Hey, has he been losing his eyesight recently?
Oh, man. He's growing hair on his
Yeah,
palms.
exactly. All those things are happening. But my point is, back in the day, I mean, let's be honest. Somebody who isn't intellectually appreciating this film, they're gonna walk out and be like, "Damn, but we saw some beautiful Patricia Arquette."
We saw
And I-
some titties,
Exactly.
guys.
Dude,
and the girlfriends that were forced to go to that film, they were pissed.
Yeah.
But the guys were having fun.
well, you
That's just the truth.
gotta cool it. 'cause-
I think we've lost track a little bit.
George is
No,
gonna
yeah,
really wanna
I'm
edit
giving
this
the rating
podcast.
here.
Yeah.
So, I don't think I liked it as much as you guys did. I didn't think it was overall a bad film. I really liked the soundtrack. I liked the visuals a lot. I mean, what they did with the lighting was
was great. That was
I-
great.
The shadow work, like Alexis was
Yeah,
saying,
it was just so ominous,
very
right?
interesting. Yeah, and it was dark and gritty, and like it was definitely a psychological thriller, which I usually I enjoy a lot, quite a bit. This one didn't hit the mark on me, fully, just because like I didn't understand it as much as I would want to. Obviously, I mean, now that we kind of had to do some research, I liked it a lot more. But just standalone film, I would say like 6.5.
6.5. Wait,
yeah.
but is that you're saying standalone film? Like if you didn't do all the other research,
Yes, exactly.
but now that you know,
I'll do a 7. I'll bump it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, if I just saw this film and didn't actually look into it more
Yeah.
or hear your guys' ideas,
if you were in
everything,
1997, you
yeah,
picked your 8
I
bucks, you
would
saw it.
I would have been like, man, this movie sucked.
It's like I saw some boobs, but
Yeah, it's just like no, man.
But you know what it is though is like we have the privilege of like you said, Memento. Like you get to relate it to these films.
Yeah.
This is a predecessor.
Did that
This
predate
probably-
Memento? When did Memento come out?
Let's see when a
Uh,
Memento
we're gonna
came
have to
out.
have-
Let's make a comparison.
or Isaac. But even then, like I mean, we're talking about Shutter Island. We're talking about we obviously mentioned Tenet and
You guys ever watched The Game? That's a great movie.
The Game is good with what's his
forgot the
name?
lead.
Michael Douglas.
Yeah, no, that movie was
That was good.
solid.
Yeah, Memento was year 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is 3 years before.
A lot of movies take inspiration from.
But
movies
I don't
like
know if this is something that like kind of made other people be like, hey, I want to
Yo,
make
this
movies
is David
like that.
Lynch,
I
bro.
don't
It
know.
absolutely was.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
think so?
Well,
I mean,
you know,
it made 3.8, so not a lot of
Yeah.
people watched it.
But
I like how Wikipedia
but
describes
that's
this film.
that's 3.8.
Okay,
at the
so
box office. That doesn't mean that.
Memento came
It
out,
lost money for
come
sure.
out 3 years later.
Yeah, we already said that.
Oh no, wait! I heard you guys say something. Was it Memento? Okay, never mind. Yeah.
But I like how Wikipedia describes this movie. It says it is a psychogenic fugue instead of a logical story. And the film's surreal narrative structure has been likened to a Mobius strip,
I
which
mean,
is
if you look at it right there, actually, it
goes back
perfectly
on its
says
own.
it. It says most critics initially dismissed the film as incoherent, but has since attracted a cult following and critical praise as well as scholarly interest. The one of the articles that I read about this film, trying to understand it, literally says that this is David Lynch's masterpiece. This is
Really?
this is his masterpiece.
interesting.
Well, if you look at
Well, I
Memento,
disagree.
Memento had a $9 million budget and it made $40 million at the box office.
So half the amount, well, more than half.
You said 15 for this one, right?
yeah, it was 15 for Lost Highway.
and it made 40 mil.
It made
But
4
Alexis
times.
makes a great point. You know what? They could have made a fucking Power Rangers movie back in the day, and it would have made way more than
Yeah.
anybody else.
Yeah.
We don't get to just immediately criticize.
No,
the
no,
money that
no.
movies
I'm
make.
not trying to like put money as saying, hey, this is like, oh, this is a successful movie just because they made money. I
Yeah.
just bring it up because you know what? It's a good indication that because at least what a part of that had been a repeat of some people like watching the movie again, right? Because they wanted to see a good movie. So that's kind of the way that I see it. I'm not basing it. Oh, was this movie actually good? Because like the greatest movie that's been made out, it was Tag. Alexis doesn't-
Shut the fuck up. Shut
Alexis
the
doesn't-
fuck up.
What is it with your hate and tag?
I thought it was well, I think this is because Isaac loved it so much.
No, I didn't. Love,
Dumb.
you're like
hater.
Isaac's a bitch, so I hate that
I
fucking
hate
movie.
this movie.
so our viewers, if you guys want to see a good movie, watch Tag.
Shut up. No.
With Jeremy
no.
Reynolds and
That's
John
that's
Hamm.
Isaac's
Please
10.
don't.
Take that with a
No,
grain of salt.
that's not my 10. My 10 would be honestly.
All right,
47.
save it. Save
Okay.
it. We want to watch.
No,
it,
actually, I want to know. I haven't heard it.
Honestly, I think
we have
a
to
movie
watch,
that's
let's
a-
watch it.
well, we can watch it.
Well,
Say
no,
it.
Watch it.
alright.
We're gonna review it.
we'll review it, but I
We'll
just
find out.
It's
We're off the rails right now. Let's get back to Lost Highway.
okay.
No, I like
Let's get
getting
back
off
on
the
the
rails.
highway.
Let's go.
Let's get back
Hey,
on
we're
Let's get lost
on the highway.
Yeah, let's get back to getting lost on the highway.
I think my favorite movie is probably has to be Forrest Gump. I can watch that.
That's interesting.
I like
That's
Forrest Gump.
It's such a, like a movie that I think it's
It has everything.
has everything. I think it's a very inspirational movie.
It is.
Even though it's not probably like real or anything, like I know it's not real. That could.
Hey, this movie wasn't real.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
But-
Forrest Gump, best comedy of all time.
That's not a comedy.
Wait, let me ask you a question. You
Yeah.
think Forrest Gump was in a fugue state? You think all that really happened?
Who?
You know?
There's no way.
You think
There's
he
no
killed
way.
his wife? You think he killed his wife?
What? Why?
He didn't kill his wife. Jenny
She
killed
died-
herself.
She had
Or she
cancer
died
or
or
AIDS.
something.
or
I don't know,
something.
man.
She killed herself because of the choices she
I
made.
think she
Yeah,
had AIDS.
exactly.
She had the herpes or something.
Well,
But Alexis, I want to hear what your score is.
I think, and this is my second watch too.
Yeah, so it's a little.
And
Different.
look, I love it when a movie can give discussions, and I'm a huge fan of David Lynch. I love Twin Peaks. I love Mulholland Drive. Like, I think he's just a fantastic filmmaker, and there's nobody else like him.
I don't think I've seen Mulholland Drive. We should watch
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, we should. Isaac's seen it. You thought it was better than this one, right?
I vaguely remember, but I do remember enjoying that movie more than this one. I'm gonna be honest because we watched it with like a couple,
Yeah,
5 years ago.
Few
5 years ago,
Yeah, yeah.
it was a good movie, but I don't
Yeah.
remember like.
He did another movie called Blue Velvet, which was really, really beautiful.
Didn't we see
very
Blue
dark.
Velvet together?
No. I recently saw that one like
Alright.
half a year ago. But I personally I give Lost Highway an 8.0 because I like it when a movie can suck me in. Because the
Yeah.
beginning it's weird, man. Like it's got a weird vibe.
It's slow.
It's slow, but like it increases, right? Like
Yeah.
the tone is changing and like the characters are strange and it's just like I don't know what's going on, but like I'm trying to understand. So I like it when a movie can like kind of challenge me and like bring a lot of questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's disturbing, but it's also like really really cool to watch. The sound, the Rammstein, man. Like I don't really, I
That's
don't.
not something you see in the movie.
Yeah,
a lot.
you don't really hear
Yeah.
Rammstein in films, and
Dude, they were going pretty crazy because if you think about this, they were in this movie Triple X, the one with Vin Diesel, his last
Oh,
good.
Rammstein was out in that one
Yeah,
too.
yeah. He's in the scene right at the beginning where they're playing in the club and they're going
That's
bang bang.
yeah. Oh, I love that song.
Yeah.
I think Vin Diesel was just trying to reprise those roles like back in the like Pitch Black, fucking XX, like all the original.
I
Fast-
know.
Triple X George, not XX.
Whatever.
What is it?
Triple X, State of the
but
Union.
regardless, like
That movie
now,
sucked.
That, no,
That one was
I
with
like
the Ice
Ice
Cube,
Cube
right?
more.
wait,
I
which
like
one?
that one more.
The second one with
What?
Ice Cube.
Hey,
Nick.
bro.
Go
Okay,
spank your own
Once you
ass.
go black,
All right, how do we go from Lost Highway to Triple X?
Well, we're talking about Ramstein.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. But
Sick concert, by the way.
this movie does a lot of like really interesting things that you don't see a lot of other directors or even like modern films do, you know. And so I really appreciate that. I give it an 8.0, and it just brings up a lot of discussion. You know, there's a lot of theories out there, and you can definitely say, hey, like I think this is what happened. You know, I think he went through like a psychological break, and this is just a fantasy. And he at the end he's in the electric chair, right? You can say that, but you can also interpret it many other ways because it is a dream, right? Maybe he didn't kill his wife. Maybe he's actually just Pete, and Fred is the dream. You know,
Mm.
it could be the other way around.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a Mobius strip, right? "Quote unquote." That's what Wikipedia
So,
says.
could you explain that again?
Yeah, so like it's, I think a Mobius strip is kind of like imagine like infinity sign,
Oh, but it's like a.
it's never it never
Oh,
close.
It's
Isn't
like
that,
from Iron Man.
yeah,
yeah.
no, from Endgame.
Endgame.
Yeah, I mean, but
I mean,
Tony,
yeah.
Tony Stark says it. He explains it.
Why do we always end up referencing like a Marvel thing?
Hey, bro.
No, because it came up on
Fuck
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no,
like,
no, but
that's exactly what I visualized.
No,
yeah.
that's a great example.
I didn't know David Lynch was that successful of a director. I didn't think he brought in $36 billion to the box office.
He's done a lot of fucking movies.
Billion.
Yeah.
Wait, to the box office or
Yeah.
all time?
Yeah, well, all time. That's yeah.
36 billion?
Yeah.
I don't know.
With
I
a
don't believe
B?
that. I
No,
don't
that's
believe
what
that
He hasn't made a movie in a long time.
because all of his stuff is like really indie stuff. You did Twin Peaks.
I don't know if that number is accurate. 36 billion. That's a lot.
Yeah. I'd agree with million, but I don't know about billion.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Lost Highway is a very interesting movie. You know, it kind of speaks on the fragility of like the male psyche, right?
Yeah.
You know, the ego, because that's the one problem that I think people in general, but men specifically.
I think anybody, honest, like any man that like has that insecurity where he doesn't make his like wife or partner have that like
yeah, like we want to make our partner feel a certain way, won't we? And we want to be satisfied with ourselves because we could do so. But when we can't,
yeah.
we can become hateful. We could become spiteful, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, men
but this
are much
character
worse
went
at dealing with their emotions.
exactly, and in this case, he went to the extreme end, right?
Yeah.
And then you know what happens when you break to the point where you don't even realize what you've done,
Yeah.
and so your current reality is so bad that you want to do this dream, this other life where you're just this like young badass, you know, screwing a bunch of girls and pulling like the most beautiful girl you can find, you know,
Cool.
and hanging out with like the coolest people. Like, you know, it's an interesting film and
Yeah.
interesting story, and I don't know, like we don't get that, so
All
like,
right.
I give it an 8.0.
Yeah.
All right. So Nick, what's your review on this movie? None that Alexis went
You
through.
know, I think I had a similar experience to George in the sense of like I can see the discussion and the backup and kind of the further review and research of the film really did add to my ability to review this
Yeah.
and give it a higher rating. I think originally I was probably somewhere around like a 7.3, and now I'm more like a
What's up
7.
with you in odd numbers? Why can't it just be
Yeah,
like
you're the one that does odd numbers.
Yeah,
Hey,
fucking
you know
weirdo.
what?
Just round up like the rest of us.
either be in the middle or be like at a
I
number?
couldn't say easy 7.
Hey,
but-
you know, he may do weird numbers, but he's consistent with them.
Yeah, that's
that's what I'm
true.
saying, bro.
That's true.
hey,
Isaac
You know
just
what?
jumps numbers real quick.
because
like,
you know what?
just like, yo,
hey,
what the
hey,
fuck?
me and David Portnoy, you know, we do pizza reviews our own way.
Dig.
Yeah,
All right, but 7.3.
But again, no, it was a 7.3. But after looking into it, after talking about it, I give it more of a 7.8, almost. And the reason why I'm still holding it back from an 8, I mean, I agree with Isaac. A big part for me was just like the pacing of the film. I know that
I fell asleep for like 10, 15
I
minutes.
saw you fall.
there
asleep.
was, there was.
And I didn't
parts
feel
where
like
I'm
I missed
just
anything.
You didn't.
Yeah.
Like I think setting the scene of him being, you know, depressed almost in his in feeling like his life is mundane, but feeling his like impotence, feeling his inability to satisfy his wife, and setting the kind of the tone that there's a problem there at the beginning of the film. That was important, but it was also dragged out. Like I don't know, maybe I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly what I'm doing with that, but I don't feel like they needed to take the time that they needed to. I mean, like for example, the party scene really well depicted the issue that they had maritally, like where she was way more kind of attracted and latched on with Andy than she was with Pete or with her husband. And so because of that, like I didn't really justify the whole beginning scene. Like, I think the only really important parts were the videotape, where it kind of was setting up the whole idea that this is his life.
Is it crazy to me? I think the only important. This is getting to the more graphic stuff. I think the only important sex scenes were important were the first one and the very last one we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All the other stuff in the
Yep.
middle, like I don't think it was
Sex
necessary.
for sex sake.
And I think that added up to what like
They both mirror each other too, because at the end he's loving her. Like it's a passion sex scene, and she says, "You
You'll
can never
never-
have me."
Yeah.
And in the beginning,
He does the same.
he can't
but
satisfy
the pat
her.
is the same thing. It's like, you'll never.
and that's
Yeah.
that's the only
They're
reason I
basically the same.
yeah I only those are the
And
only
that's
scenes that
that's where this conversation is what does that to me, where it's like, oh, that's very interesting, that connection feels good, so like I can understand and piece that better. So that's where the 7/8 comes from. I think for me, as far as this being a noir and like I mean, I don't know, like, dude, I said this during the film and I feel like such a weirdo for saying this now, but like, I fucking hated the colors of that house. Like,
It was very muted,
I
right?
fucking thought it was like the ugliest set I've ever seen.
it was the 90s.
And I'm sorry, I was born in the 90s, and I have pictures of my house in that era, and it was never that ugly.
Wait, but Nick, don't you think that's a reflection of his unhappiness with his current life?
Hey, I mean,
It's
think,
very minimalist.
you know, it's
Yeah.
interesting
Very
that
simple.
you point that out, though, because it's funny that Andy's house wasn't like that.
Yeah, Andy's was like
No,
it's
it,
short-
white,
it seemed
bright
like it was pretty
colors,
dark
interesting.
in
No.
there too.
No, he had bright lights and everything, because you were able to see all the way to the staircase to point out who the mystery man was. And he's like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's Dick Laurent's friend, right?"
Oh yeah, you're
but
right,
like
right.
in his house, you couldn't see 3 inches in front of your face in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
how dark the whole place was, right? That's how like trapped he felt inside himself.
I think it was a reflection of his inner mind.
Okay.
Okay.
So now
That doesn't mean that my inner decorator is like this.
No,
is
no,
terrible.
that's fine.
I'm just
It's
saying.
a terrible house to
okay,
look at.
Okay.
But
so,
it was the confusion and
depressing.
everything. There was some really cool things, and something that I we haven't talked about really is like I kind of noticed that the soundtrack, especially like the use of like Rammstein, like they.
Rammstein.
No, Rammstein.
Hey, I'm gonna be a little extra with it, okay?
No, German.
But the use of it, I don't know if you guys picked up on it. Maybe I kind of want to hear if you guys also heard this, but it felt like when they started using their soundtrack, it was little by little, and so they like said
just
like
the
the first
intro.
part, and then they added a little bit more, and they added a little bit more up until the point where he finally murdered Mr. Eddie.
Yeah.
And that was where it was like adding to this whole idea that
And then it
his
just-
psyche is breaking down.
And then it just cuts.
Yeah, and then it cuts
Yeah.
to him being now like he's fully gone from like whatever's happening in his brain, whatever imagination or trip he's having psychologically, and he's back on the electric chair and he's dying.
He's convulsing in his car on
Exactly.
the highway.
So like
Listening
all
to Nine
those
Inch
little
Nails.
things that I got a chance to like dissect.
That's the way I want to go out.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I mean, hey, dude.
Hey, so I think before we continue, let's get back on track a little
Okay.
bit. So, what are you guys' favorite scenes, George?
Well, let's get into the weird scenes. Let's get into the scenes
I-
that,
it's
that,
a weird
maybe
movie.
count.
Let's talk about what
I know, but I think this movie has a lot of weird scenes,
Let's
and
meld them.
I think
Let's just get into it. Hey, I'm the fucking host.
fuck you, Alexis.
You were host last week, Alexis.
I'm taking
You
over
fucker.
again. This is my movie.
This is why we have issues. So, what's
Cut
your
that, cut
favorite
that.
fucking scene? Starting out with
Um,
Alexis, because apparently he wants to talk a lot right now.
Yeah, so the weirdest scene for me.
You piece of shit. I said favorite scene.
Well, okay, the scenes that stand out to me, is when he's in his house, Fred in the beginning.
Yeah, but is that your favorite scene?
Yeah, it
Okay,
is.
okay.
Because he's just looking, right? And it's darkness. Like it's just absolute darkness.
Yeah.
And it's just it's framed in a way where that's all you see, but it's like a void somewhat. And to me, when I was a kid, the thing that scared me the most was darkness because it's the unknown.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, still not.
Still.
Yeah.
But what scares me too is death because that is also the unknown. So I kind of equate the two to be the same. But Fred just walks into it slowly.
Yeah.
And it kind of like sits still on it, even for a bit as he like disappears
Mhm.
into the scene.
Mhm.
And Patricia Arquette, her character, Renee, is also looking at it and is kind of like, what? And so I like something weird happened there because that's shortly before we realize that, or it shows us that he killed his wife.
Yeah.
And so, and he walks out of it like looking weird,
Okay.
like it's strange. It's a very strange, and it makes me feel weird, and
Yeah.
it's not a good feeling. But I mean, shit, like a movie can do that,
All right.
like that's why I.
All right,
find
Nick,
so-
what's your favorite scene in the movie?
Well, I mean, to add to, I'm gonna say like I'm gonna meld you guys too. You guys see favorite and weird and stuff like that, but I kind of want this one to be my favorite weird scene. And the reason why I say that is because like there's a lot of cool and interesting things. Like there's funny scenes. Like for example, like I know it's not meant to be funny, but the idea of Mr. Eddie fucking telling him about like, oh, these are the rules and regulations. 160. That's 6 car lights.
I
Like,
damn
like
it,
that.
Nick, you took
hilarious.
mine. That was my
Don't
favorite
fucking
scene.
tailgate.
That was
That's-
my fucking
That's
scene.
hilarious. Talking about tailgating, but no.
You son of a bitch!
what
Does
did
it
I say?
again.
I'm melting.
Sorry to our
constantly.
headphone listeners. This is gonna be loud.
We'll lower it. We'll lower it.
Yeah.
But again, my favorite scene, I think, in like trippiness too, more than anything, goes into the concept of like him waking up and seeing the Mystery Man, like seeing the Mystery Man's face on his wife,
Oh, like superimpose on her
like
face.
superimposed.
Okay.
That CGI was terrible.
That was, dude, I mean,
I don't think it was supposed to be
for
good.
1997,
you
it was great.
Yeah. Dude, if I was a kid in 19, I'm like, oh shit, you know.
But that
Some
idea
shit's
that
going down.
Yeah.
But that idea that somebody that you love has been taken over, and like, and that at that point- and it's
Unrecognizable.
unrecognizable, and like, especially like me nowadays having people that I love like that, having like people that I care about like in my life, like just the concept of I can relate to what Alexis said heavily. Like back in the day, I was super terrified of the dark.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Today, I still feel uneasy in deep darkness, right? But I don't really truly feel like anything can compare to the idea of like somebody that I love being kind of removed and superimposed by a weird man having the face of the
Yeah.
body, and the thought of like I just had sex with this person was that the man or was that the
Was
girl?
that the pale
Like,
faced man?
oh
Like
my
what is
gosh,
this?
yeah. So yeah, that was trippy as hell for me.
Yeah.
Ironically, my favorite scene was when he was doing jazz. No,
Oh my god.
no, but let me tell you what.
fucking-
All right.
Let me
Lay it
tell
out.
you
Lay it
what.
out.
I hated the jazz. I don't think that
That
was
sounded
what-
really bad. Yeah.
It sounded really bad, but I don't think that was what it was important to the scene. I think what it brought out, I think it was his final straw, because that's what sets up the later in the night where he wakes up having that bad nightmare, and then he sees his wife, like it's that old creepy, his own inner thoughts, like face dude is on her wife, and then it leads him to kill. Like it was like the last straw because she was walking out with Andy, and like it was like, dude, this is it for me. Like she did it to me one last time. I promised myself I wasn't gonna deal with this anymore. I'm gonna like take her out. So I think after watching the movie, that was my favorite because it started the chain of events. that we've seen.
Actually, kind of looking back at it now, it's like, why didn't she go to the club? Does she also think he's a failing musician? Like,
No, I think
know
think
we
she probably
mentioned it. We were
I think she
like-
probably didn't go to the club because she was gonna meet with Andy.
Well, she I had said like, oh, wearing that tight ass red dress, right? You guys mentioned it was a nightgown.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the next scene she was wearing a black nightgown, not a red one.
True.
I thought it was silver.
Oh, I'm sorry. The
The color
black-
doesn't
dark
matter.
It was
silver.
a dark nightgown, but my point is, it was not a red one. In my opinion, that insinuates they didn't have sex that night. He fell asleep.
Yeah.
But why would she have to change nightgowns? Why was she not wearing red? Why all of a sudden was her nightgown a different color?
Because most likely she
Maybe
was-
because it ended up on the floor covered in
Jesus.
I'm just saying, and it wasn't.
Damn.
Hey, Nick, your fucking mind just ponders
Yeah,
sometimes, huh?
Damn.
These are the things that keep
That's,
you up at night,
that's
bud?
what you imagine in your head.
Hey, the attention
That's
to
what
detail
13-year-old
here.
B would have been.
I didn't even notice that till you brought it up now,
all
actually.
right. So moving forward, George, what's your favorite scene?
Shit, definitely. I mean, I agree with Nick on this one. Any scene with Mr. What was his name?
Eddie.
Mr.
Mr. Eddie.
The tailgating scene.
That one was
Dick
the best.
Laurent.
I also feel like Eddie was just like a powerful, strong character. So I don't know if that was like resemblance of like what he wanted to be as well, because he already had the hot wife,
It
Alice,
was a
right?
moral high ground, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
everything
why.
was moral.
So
like, what
he
you
wanted to
should
be him because he's also like he's got the power. He's like a strong, egotistical man, but he's like he wears it on his chest,
Yeah.
and maybe that's something that he would want for himself as well. And that's why like he gets Alice because he's powerful and strong.
Unfortunately, he's the band nerd that made it
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
But
the
I,
honorable mention truly is the porn like scene where it was showing what's his name, Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson. That was
That was weird as
That
hell.
was the
Was it
weirdest.
Marilyn Manson?
Yeah.
It was
Had
Marilyn
to
Manson.
Oh
be
yeah, that's
Marilyn
right.
Manson.
That's
No,
right.
remember
You-
I told you I was
yeah,
like
yeah.
I saw his icon,
Yes,
his
yeah,
contacts,
the eyes.
and then I right away I knew.
Do
I
you,
was like,
do you
oh,
guys
that's
think
Marilyn
that?
Manson.
Should I Google this to find out?
Later.
Yeah, but definitely that scene was great. I mean, I really liked any scene with Mr. Eddie just because he was just this like he stole the scenes. I feel like with me because I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, that man like he's menacing and just this powerful character, and that was very interesting. I really liked that. And then like you kind of just look at him and he's like wimpy and just kind of like like even when Alice first asked him like, hey, take me to dinner. And he's like, no,
I shouldn't.
I can't. And it's because he's scared of Mr.
And
Eddie.
she's like, okay,
and then,
I'll take you.
Yeah,
to
and then
dinner.
she's like, I'll take you to dinner.
Yeah,
because you're not man enough.
Yeah,
And it's just
that
like-
was him. That was him.
That's cool. That's
So
pretty cool.
I really like those
Man,
scenes.
Manson was
and
high in
then,
'97, dude. He just did his like first, like the second album.
People.
Yeah.
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 Dun, dun, dun.
I think that one's probably the best. And then I'm trying to think of other scenes that I really enjoyed, but that's what stood out the most to me. And then the resolution at the end where he kills Mr. Eddie. And then also, one thing that stood out to me, weird scene, was the fucking creepy dude that represents his what was it that it was
His
representing?
ego?
Was his ego, his vanity,
Vanity, yeah. Like that
or
was
jealousy?
kinda
Sorry,
His jealousy.
Yep.
You're talking
That-
about the mystery man.
the mystery man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The pale
He's
man.
the beans to guide him in all the things that he feels jealous of all the wants that
exactly.
he has.
Those were weird to me
That's
because it's
him.
like when he meets him at the party, he's like, I know you.
Which
He's
is
like-
interesting, actually. I was going to say,
Okay, go
think
ahead.
about the party, right? Where he asks, who is that guy, right?
Yeah.
Standing next to, or he's like, and then he says,
He's like, oh, I don't know that
that's
guy.
the friend
Dick.
of
Yeah,
Dick Laurent, right?
he didn't know Dick Laurent.
Yeah,
at the
he
time.
didn't know Dick Laurent. And so, like, the only thing that I feel like I still can't wrap is he asked Andy who that was. But he was the only guy in black. In my opinion, like, I feel like nobody else should have been able to see him, right? Nobody else should have known who that man was. He was the mystery man for a reason. Like, so even, like, for example, the scene where the mystery man had called Pete with Mr. Eddie to tell him, like, essentially, like, you know who I am. I was at your house and stuff like that. That was referencing not Pete. That was the mystery man breaking through Pete to go back to talk to our real main character, right? Our real protagonist. And so that's where I don't think
wait,
that Mr. Eddie.
You know
No,
what? I think when
think-
he says I'm in your house, that
It's 'cause
doesn't
you-
mean I'm in your
No.
physical home. I'm in your
literally-
mind.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. Because he
Yeah.
says like, "Oh, I don't enter anybody's home unless I'm welcomed." So that means like you're inviting vanity and like
Jealousy,
jealousy and all
anger.
these things.
Oh
And it's like,
shit!
you're
dude,
inviting
that's
him in.
crazy. That's
Yeah.
fucking nuts.
Because it's
Yeah.
like it wasn't he was physically at his home. It's like no, this is what you want. You're inviting me into your mind and your realm. And then it's like, oh, why is he friends with Dick? Because Dick is also invited him into his home because
because Dick was getting jealous of supposedly.
exactly. So all
Like,
of it
he
kind of
was-
ties back together.
So like you're like all
'Cause
these
that's-
people are
'cause
versions
Dick
of Fred.
was a friend. He's like, oh, how do you know that guy? He's like, I don't. That's Dick's friend. He's like, that's how I know him because like he had already kind of invited that to his home, and then like
Dude, we just broke through something right there.
yeah no
I
so-
didn't think about that
Yeah,
at
no.
all.
really
That
that's
was
as
what
soon as I
alcohol's
heard the
for,
scene
buddy.
where he was like, oh, you invited me in. He's like,
I was
Because he
literally
wanted
thinking
me
like his
there.
house. Like because
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this guy sounds
My
like a
house.
vampire, you know?
yeah, no, for sure. But I definitely enjoyed those scenes because they were creepy, they were eerie, and now that we know like what he was meant to represent, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That's okay. I get it.
Yeah.
I think the creepiest scene for me was when
You missed the whole thing.
Yeah, you
bud.
missed the whole
I
ass
don't
thing, man.
fucking care.
Piece of
You'll
shit.
listen to this and be like, oh shit.
We just broke through with something.
It's the alcohol talking. Gets brother and break through shit.
I just realized that Bread was
Yeast.
he was at the beginning and the end of the movie.
I don't know why I thought you said bread.
Bread sounds nice right about now.
What were you
Yeah,
gonna
what
say?
were you
What were you
saying?
Oh,
saying?
so my creepiest scene is when I think the creepiest scene was when he kills Eddie, and I think
that was a nice shot too. Boom.
No, I think it was when he got the knife.
Video camera.
The video cam. Oh, that's right.
Because the video camera showed the two shots before
Yeah.
it happened in real life.
Yeah,
So it's like the video camera was reinforcing this guy. Like, I want this guy to die.
Yeah.
Fred, kill this guy.
like to him that was still the right decision because I feel like whatever was on the video camera, no, on the little thing, it was reality.
But jumping on whatever George was saying, you know, the killing of Mr. Eddie is the death of who he represents inside Fred's mind, right? You know, inside his ego, you know.
Or for all we know, this movie was actually about Fred. No, I mean about. I fucked that one
It was
up.
about it was about the main character.
No. Look.
All right, hey, bud.
Hear me out.
We're so confident. I think it's the alcohol speaking here. What the fuck?
No. Oh, hear me out. Fuck you guys.
No way, guys. But I think I'm onto something.
No, I'm on to. I got this. Give me a second.
It's about
Guys,
Fred, the
hold
main
on.
character.
No.
This movie is about the main character. No, hear me out. Hold up.
No.
God damn it, Isaac.
God damn. Let me finish. Oh shit.
That was great.
We're laughing too much. I'm gonna.
Okay.
All right.
What
go
I
ahead.
really think we're gonna leave this in too because it's fun. I think what this movie was really about was Eddie, because I think it was himself looking at his, because he's the older guy, and the older guy I think in the scenario, he's like, dude, I love this chick. He even said it like in the middle when he was talking to Pete. He's like, don't ever fuck with this chick because I really love.
He said that about
Oh, yeah.
Alice. He didn't say that about Renee.
He was like, if I knew anybody was
what's
making
weird,
out
though,
with
is
my
that
girl.
At the end,
But
he
the-
wasn't fucking Alice. He was fucking Renee.
And that's what I'm saying. So maybe she was like fucking the producer, and Fred was just like a dude that knew Renee, and he went off the rails. Like he was just like a stalker dude.
Yeah, well, remember, Alice, by whatever the movie's showing, was not really real.
Yeah, so Alice was just an
You're
interpretation
saying
of what
Alice
he
was
wanted.
just Renee with a wig kind of deal?
I think Alice is what Fred wanted Renee to be.
But
Yes.
no, what I'm saying in the that's what we know as far as Fred, right? But what do we know as far as if Isaac's whole point is that maybe this was actually all Mr. Eddie, right? Or like a lot of it.
Yeah, and it was just like a crazy dude that ended up killing Eddie, which was AKA Fred, because maybe he watched a lot of porn, because he even said like, hey, do you want this porn video?
Is this an anti-porn film?
Baby, I don't know. But like I think that's an interesting idea, because
That is an interesting idea.
because you remember, like, you see Eddie give like, hey, do you want this porn to his fake character, which was Pete, which was, I think maybe it was just a guy that just had a psychotic break anyways, and he's like, dude, I want Renee to myself only. And that's why when there was when there were maybe that was just Renee's house, and he was just living, because he was creeping up. We don't know exactly if that was Fred's body next to Renee. We just know that was Renee, and we just saw a dude's back, and that dude's back could have been Mr. Eddie, because he was the one. Because you remember, what was on the screen was what we consider reality,
right.
and so maybe he did film that, and then that's what, like, it kept triggering him that maybe Andy was having sex with Renee, and that he was just like a dude. Because this was also 1987, where they didn't know how to handle porn just quite yet. Like, let's be real. Like,
Yeah, they were still distributing it on VHS.
yeah, no, I don't think about that. I think like porn addiction was something that was coming up.
Absolutely.
And this guy was just like a dude that was infatuated with this actress, and then maybe in one of her scenes she had the blonde hair because that's what he imagined her like. And then he got crazy,
But it all really just boils down to possession and jealousy.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Like
That-
that's
that's
the
a
main like motivator for these
Yeah.
male characters.
I can kind of see what Isaac's saying though, that like maybe this is what he would want himself to be in the future.
and then honestly, I think something that would
Freddie wanted to be Eddie in the future.
and I
Like,
think something that would
That makes
reinforce
sense.
my theory was when Andy told Pete, he go like, "Hey, don't come close to me again because I will kill you." And when he did the whole scene in the shop, and like he maybe again there was a scene where Andy might have seen some shit happen.
Pencil mustache dude?
Eddie.
Oh, Eddie. Okay.
Eddie might have seen, might have like,
Dick
hey,
love wrong.
because he was a producer. He's like, dude, get away from my girl. Like she's producing me money right now, and that's probably also where the other guy's insecurities also followed through.
Mm.
But again, I don't know. That's just my wild theory.
No, I love hearing that.
Yeah.
That's really good. I do want to talk about that tailgating scene because, as the movie as a whole,
Yeah.
that's the one scene that kind of, it's just weird because it's very
it
funny.
stands out. Yeah.
It stands out. It's ridiculous. Mr. Eddie's very, very like, you're not supposed to tailgate. You're supposed to leave 6 spaces of vehicles between, yourself and the car behind you, this and that. And I just wonder, like, why
Oh,
was that in
here's
there?
another tie into my theory, because we see Pete in the passenger seat, right? What if that was Fred's like second or third alter ego actually tailgating?
Well, that was the point, right? The Mystery Man, Mr. Eddie, and Pete were all different kind of personas of.
But you're
Fred-
talking. But you're
you know
but,
what? I think that scene was supposed to show like what he feels like he would do to somebody if they were
If they wronged him?
flirting with his girl, but he didn't have the balls to do it. Because like, look at the little fucking pencil mustache
Andy.
dude, right? he did that to his girl. Like he would flirt with him, everything in front
I
of him,
think
but he never had the balls
he's
to
meant to
actually
represent
confront
a
him
true
and,
character, right? Like Pete is not normal. A guy who is a standard, average Joe should not have a life where he has a beautiful girlfriend and an even more beautiful mistress. Not dogging the girlfriend in any way, just saying like that was the whole point, right? He's like, I can go even further. I can kind of push to get even more standards of beauty. And she wants me more than I want her. And she's so sexually attracted to me, even though she's a porn star, right? That's outlandish. That doesn't exist in real life. That's not reality. The reality being Mr. Eddie, which is a man who's powerful, who's got money. He would have the girl. He would have the means. And morally, he also is a real person that he also believes in the sense of like saying like, oh, I don't believe that it's okay for you to tailgate somebody. I don't believe it's okay for you to break the law. Like in other words, like even though he was a corrupt kind of like criminal looking like type character, Mr. Eddie was. He was addicted to sex. He was a filmmaker or a porn filmmaker.
Probably just produce.
Or a producer, with Dick Laurent.
Yeah.
Right? So
I mean, there's no way Dick
meant-
Laurent doesn't sound like a porn producer.
That's a name, right?
Yeah.
For sure. That's a stage name.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bro, I'm naming my child that. But but no, like my point being that, like I said, the Mystery Man. That's what I had read. Right? It was that the Mystery Man was meant to represent kind of his biggest fears coming to real life, that he can't hide and pretend anymore. The all of the videos that the Mystery Man is taking is real life, the mundaneness and the emptiness of his life and the loneliness that he feels in his relationships, the jealousy that he feels in his relationships. Then you have Mr. Eddie, who is like what a real person with power in Hollywood should be, what he should be.
What you would want to be, too.
And then the super ego being, Pete, where all of a sudden he's just a kid who's still able to pull and gain all of this influence, especially in sex, which is what he really feels like he's lacking, right? And so that's where it's like.
And even his parents were supposed to be there to kind of hold him back and keep him.
Yeah.
And his parents do not wanting to tell Pete who he really is and where he really was that night, because they're hiding the entire time the truth from him that he's not real. He's just the imagination of Fred.
Yeah.
So is this?
Oh wait, I have a question for you, Nick. And I know you read
Put a pin on that, George.
Put a pin, because I feel like
again.
Shut the fuck up.
Because I feel like Nick, you
God damn it.
you changed your perspective after reading the articles. Can I hear exactly? Because I know that kind of changed the way you thought about the movie.
Yeah.
Can you tell me exactly what you originally thought about the movie?
I mean, originally I was lost in the ways
Highway.
that I didn't understand. I was lost.
I want to hear the real Nick.
I was lost in the highway of my mind. I mean, like I said, like this helps to add and fill in the gaps. But in my opinion, originally I had felt like the movie pacing was slower and not really allowing me to really actually digest like the differences in the characters. And I get that the tempos were technically there, probably set so that on the first watch, if you're really fucking smart, you would have picked up some of this stuff about like super ego and whatever. But on the second watch, it would allow us to bring out these metaphors and and all the symbolism in this movie.
Yeah.
But like originally, that was my biggest deal, was that I couldn't really grasp exactly who this Mystery Man was meant to represent. I couldn't really grasp. Like I could kind of see like towards the end of that portion that Pete was meant to be somebody who was ideal, especially once that scene showed that the cops no longer saw who Alice was, that like Alice was truly, like we all saw, we're like, what the fuck? Why is Patricia again a different character in this film?
Yeah, I thought she was dead.
Yeah, like she's supposed to be dead. Like Renee is dead, but Renee was dead.
Dick
Like
Laurent
Alice
is
wasn't
dead.
real. And so we're like, oh shit, like that was able to wrap up for him. But I didn't understand what the Mystery Man was. I didn't understand what his point was. In my opinion, I saw that that Mr. Eddie was also just a kind of secondary character. I didn't see him as somebody special or different. So that was like the Mr. Eddie part wasn't what really got me into a higher score as much as what it was the Mystery Man, where understanding the whole idea of his jealousy and like even what Alexis mentioned,
His alter
while you were
ego.
gone, where it's like the head, like him being in his house is more like him being in his head. Like he's like, I'm trying to bring you to reality. You're feeling jealousy. You're feeling rage. You're feeling like the urge to kill. Like
Yeah, because that character only shows up in the moments where he's like
about to do something crazy.
but like it's very intrusive.
Yeah,
It's kind of like an intrusive thought.
Yeah, like when his wife asks him to go get him a drink, and she's like, go
Yeah.
away, and then immediately he's
He's
like,
like, hey, we've met
he's
before.
like, we've met before.
Yeah.
You're feeling envy. You're feeling
Yeah, his
jealous.
wife's like, get out of here.
And it's
I
like,
wanna
you've already
hang with
invited
Andy."
me into your home.
Yeah, I wanna go,
Because you
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
me there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you want to say?
Oh
earlier?
no! I was gonna say, I now looking back at it overall, this film is really a portrayal of male insecurity
Yep.
and how
How
fragile
fragile
we can be.
egos are. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's like it's interesting because it's like something that men don't usually like talk about or portray.
Especially in 1997.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So we act out of anger and rage usually when it comes to those things because it's like we don't know how to process those
Yeah.
emotions because it's like not like something that we specifically talk to other people
Yeah.
about.
I
or
mean, we don't like
see.
to feel like
Yeah.
less than.
Exactly.
And I
So-
think for the average male, I think you won't really understand who you are is until you get into a relationship. Because like honestly, like if you're a dude that's just walking around like honestly doesn't have a long-term relationship, you only have 3 feelings: angry, sad, and happy. Like
And
you're
horny.
And horny, you forgot horny. Yeah.
that's not a
That's
feeling,
four,
that's a
that's four.
sensation.
No, it's a feeling.
It's a state of mind. It's a
George
state of
wakes
mind.
up that way most days.
No, not as much as Isaac at 25 apparently.
Dude, I was crazy.
He was
man.
high on testosterone.
Dude,
He
too much.
He was watching David Lynch films like left and right.
For the nudity. For the nudity.
For the scenes. But I think it's also like, if you don't have that person to ground you out, it really takes you to some primal ass shit, because at the end of the day, this movie boils down to a man being jealous because he can't keep the person that he cares about in place or next to him in a happy state.
Well, even the way he killed his wife, and like it shows that he dismembered her.
Yeah.
That
That
showed
is
that he
brutal.
felt he had
Yeah.
a
That's
lack
anger.
of
Yeah.
like
It is
not
absolutely
to say
brutal.
possession, like not possession in the way of like owning another woman or another being. In the
I think it's
world.
about
But it's
owning
like
men.
he couldn't possess her sexuality. Like he literally was truly cucked at the end. Like we find out like throughout rewatching and analyzing this film that he really was a cuck when it came to like Andy. Right? She clearly wanted Andy more. He was a cuck when it came to Mr. Eddie, where she was fucking Mr. Eddie at the end. Like all of these different characters were able to satisfy her. He could not.
I
Right?
I
I
But
think
he
it's also
wanted
one of
to
the reasons
possess her
why
body.
he killed her the way that he did.
Exactly,
He just
that's my
remember
point.
because he took the one thing away from her that she had over
That
him, which
she
was the
said
beauty.
he could not have.
And yeah, exactly. So
And
it's
that's
like,
maybe why Andy was like in his, let's say, his alternate life. Why he wanted to go,
Kill
take
him.
his money, and the way that he died, so brutally.
Well, I think what ended up happening in that, I think Fred went to go talk to Annie. I'm like, hey, you can like not talk to my wife. I think he
Only fuck her on days that I
yeah, and I think unfortunately he found a place where like Andy was gonna meet up with his wife at his house. They got into an argument because at the end you see kind of where he has that kind of psychotic Pete's character has a psychotic break where he's like he's dead. Like he refers to and then his wife was like, we got to get out of here. Like
no. Also, one
it was
thing
like
that
we killed him. You
one-
killed
one-
him.
Yeah.
yeah, that's one detail that
Go
I wanted
ahead.
to say too. It's like she's like, I didn't want him dead. She's like, I liked him. She's like, you killed him.
Yeah.
Because you wanted this, not the other way around. She's just not the one that wanted to kill him.
Great point.
So I was like, that was
The best
That's a
point
big
was
detail.
Viagra was invented in 1989. All of us could have avoided it with a little blue pill.
hey, a little Viagra.
whoa,
and
what if she was a size queen and this guy was a porn artist?
Hey, you know what? Fucking get a divorce. I don't know what you want to hear.
Yeah,
We're gonna
don't kill
somebody.
your wife because you're jealous.
Yeah.
Just divorce her, bro.
Yeah.
It's
Hey,
not
but
that.
you know
okay.
what? Moral of this film
Go to
is
therapy. How many of these films are going to end
Yeah,
up
go
that
to
way?
therapy.
I
Go to
think
therapy.
for all the guys listening out there,
Just go to therapy,
you're
bro.
Good. Don't be an asshole.
struggling with your own
Masculinity.
ego, masculinity. Just go to therapy, bro. Have a conversation with your wife. Don't kill her.
or how
You
about
know?
this? Try to understand the person
Hey,
that you're with.
Don't be an incel.
Yeah.
Don't be an incel.
Don't-
Just
Love yourself
Yeah,
yes,
before you
that's
love
important.
anybody else,
before you get
gotta love
lost
yourself.
on the
Yeah.
highway.
nothing a little a conversation and some Viagra can't fix for sure. Yeah.
I agree, absolutely. So I mean, but after this discussion, have your ratings stayed the same?
Actually,
I-
I was about to
is
say
it
that
up?
you guys have skewed my perspective a little bit. Now finding these little hidden details, all
Where
these
you at?
things. I mean, I'll push it up another 5, but I mean, from the beginning till
Nice.
now,
Yeah, an
that's
8?
no
He was at a 7.
7.
He was
Now
at
I'm
a 7.
7.5.
Yeah.
That's
So
pretty good.
you guys a number. It went up a number.
Yeah.
I'm still at a
I feel like
7,
that.
8. I was.
I stayed at 7.5 because I feel like I really paid attention to the movie except for like those 15 minutes that I fell asleep.
Yeah, but
But
it was just atmosphere.
It was
building, yeah.
so you know, it didn't change much for me. You know, I do like the fact that we were able to have a discussion, and hopefully, if the viewers at home actually watch it with a couple of buddies, you guys can have the same discussion. And I think that's one of the reasons why it was so agreeable to us, and we kind of gave it a really high score. But if you watch it alone, I could see why you're like, fuck this movie. Like,
Yeah, you really want to have a discussion when
Yeah.
you see this.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you know, you watch this and listen to us,
I
and
feel like
maybe you agree
this
with
is
us.
definitely like a guy's film.
Yeah.
Like where you're just like, holy
It's,
shit.
No,
it
honestly,
is male oriented.
If
No,
you
no,
watch
for
it,
sure.
If you watch it
It's
with your
literally-
girlfriend, just like I think it's also a great opportunity for somebody to see and look
Like-
at themselves and reflect. Like, you know what? Make sure that I'm having a conversation with my girlfriend about our sexuality. Like this
Or
is a
partner.
Great,
Or partner.
Or sorry, with your partner. Thank you, Alexis.
Not even just about your sexuality, but your whole relationship.
Well, that's
and
my
how you're
point. Like,
feeling.
I think especially like male dominated, like unfortunately, like our big drive to reproduce and stuff has led us to believe that we need to be like some sort of sexual god. When in reality, let's be honest, like the I know we're talking about partner, but just to dive into it, a female in my ability is way more complex in a beautiful way with their sexuality than a male could ever be. We're very
100%.
bringing your partner
Oh,
would really
God.
allow you to dissect this idea of like, hey, you know what? Like, you don't need to feel like sex needs to be number one, like always perfect, but number two, especially like,
They're there.
are you
Hey, it's
actually?
alright.
But are you
It's
having
alright.
like this conversation? Like, are
Yeah.
you actually talking to your partner and saying like,
Absolutely.
how can I help? How
I feel
can
like
be
any
present?
healthy relationship, you're having that conversation.
Because if
and if you're
anything-
not, then that's a factor, man.
Yeah.
I feel like all right, there might be certain situations where I feel like if that is something that's going on, you're gonna try to find a solution. It's like, all right, so what can we do to make sure that you're pleased and happy? But I feel like if you're not even having that conversation, you can't even get to that point to
Yeah,
begin with.
sex
Yeah,
is
It's
one of the
like-
most important
Bec-
aspects of a relationship, and if
because
you're
the-
not having a conversation,
and also
you
like
know,
the likelihood of you hitting it off like the rip with that other person is
even with
it-
time,
yeah.
human beings evolve.
Yeah.
Human beings change. This is a great movie for everybody to watch, and I think everybody should.
Wait,
Wow.
I wait. Let me correct you. I don't think it's a good movie for everybody to watch. I think if you're
Above 18.
no, I know. I think if you're like 20 and above, it's a good movie to watch. At that point, you already had like a
No,
few
I
partners.
watch,
think
watch it as an
if you're
18-year-old and
young-
watch it again
No,
as a
I think if you're
21-year-old.
young, all these little innuendos and everything might just go right over your head.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like I don't know. I think you definitely have to be a little bit more mature to understand the deeper themes for them to make sense and correlate. Because I feel like when you're young, you're not really worried about those kinds of things, and it's not like
I don't think I started this movie thinking that we'd be talking about the complexities of what it is to have a relationship and this and that, you know.
Yo, but
and,
that's
and
what
it's great.
that's what makes this great movie. You know?
Exactly.
And that's why I think I still give it a 7.5. You know,
Stand by that, absolutely, with pride.
Yeah. No, and you know, and I that's why I love David Lynch. You know, these movies can be interpreted many different ways. And,
Yeah.
You know, let's say we watch this movie in 3 years, maybe we'll have a different type of discussion about it. You know, so
you know what? I think with that, I think it's time for a wrap.
I think it's time for a wrap too.
I don't know any
Um,
remaining lasting feelings or
No.
Hey, come into this movie, and if you need to, enjoy yourself, if you need to bring a partner to watch it with you to discuss, I think those are great things. If you're watching it by yourself, I think it's an absolutely great opportunity.
It is a-
dive into yourself.
It's a disturbing movie, but it's also very, very interesting, and it
Very
brings up a
rewarding.
lot of questions, and
Yeah.
it is rewarding when you have this type of discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we came in not knowing anything about what was kind of going on. I mean, hints maybe.
Yeah.
But now we kind of have a larger understanding of what it may be or may not be at the same time too.
Maybe go watch this movie as four guys. Just enjoy
One film.
One film.
and
Yeah,
that's
but
a wrap.
again, guys, if you like this, leave some comments on our Spotify, Apple Music. There are ways for you to, just message us. We're on Twitter, Instagram. We also have an email,
We have
4
TikTok
guys,
as
1
well.
film @gmail.com.
Yeah.
we love recommendations, especially movies that are obscure. We probably haven't seen. We watch a lot of movies, so a lot of the big ones we've seen, but we want to hear what you guys want to say.
Yeah.
So
And hopefully we'll watch some more David Lynch films. I think he
Yeah.
offers a lot of really interesting stories and perspectives.
And honestly, the 100 people that listen to us, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
we
keeps
have
us
100
going.
listeners. I thought we were like at 10.
No, we
Nope.
got a lot of people.
Yeah,
We're,
yeah.
shit.
we're getting there.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's dope.
But hey,
I think we should do a special thing on if we ever do get to 1,000. I think we
yeah,
should do. We should do
that should be
something.
a special
Yeah.
thing. Absolutely.
All right.
Hey,
I'm willing
We're
to put some
gonna,
money
we're
into
gonna
it.
watch just all the nude scenes from
Hey, so end of the day, if you guys like it, don't like it, hey, don't take it too seriously. It's just movies.
Just a movie, guys.
Just a movie.
Just a movie.
All right.
George, that was your stupid ass catchphrase. I know you've been trying to do that shit every
We're not-
episode.
Can we make it a thing or no?
No, I don't.
I like it.
George is gonna make it a thing.
I
It's a
like
thing.
it.
It's a thing.
I like
George's
it.
thing.
Fuck
George
you guys.
have a-
Hey, have your own thing.
Ow.
How about that, bud? Stop hitting on my shit.
My thing is that I have a dumpy.
But you can't see that. You can
Yeah,
only listen.
one day.
It's fucking peachy.
Yeah.
Well, one day you'll
All right, at 1,000 listeners,
Video.
Nick is showing that peachy on the pod.
we're doing a
Absolutely,
special
bro.
calendar like if it was I
Yeah.
married
It'll
like
all
check
be
it.
my cheeks, bro.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Yes.
4 guys, 1 film. We had a lot of fun, and we'll catch you next time. Maybe we'll see another Lynch film.
Yeah.